pause directly with all of you, but have heard so much about the work that's happening across all of our strategies, and in particular, some of the work that partners here on this call are doing. So we appreciate all the work you've been doing, the partnership, and the commitment that you've had to advance equity in King County. I see we were joined by Kalayan Domingo. Kalayan, Kai, would you like to introduce yourself, and then we'll get started?
Sure. Hi, everybody. Kalayaan Domingo. You can also call me Kai. I'm the strategy lead for our learning community work, as well as I work with our partners in the Central District and White Center. Thanks for being here today, and hope you're all having a great Friday.
Thanks, Kai. So we are so excited to be really celebrating the passage of the Best Starts for Kids renewal. It's a birthday and anniversary of sorts, and so thanks everybody for indulging in a little bit of birthday round robin in our introductions. Last August, as many of you know, with over 62% approval from King County voters, they overwhelmingly chose to renew Best Starts for Kids. And with that support, we're able to continue the support that we're providing to children, youth, families, and communities across King County. And our work together has really, I think, shown us what's possible when we bring together community and government and philanthropy in new ways. And we put equity at the heart of the work that we're doing. We are really excited to, next slide, be able to hopefully address some of the questions that you all are coming with, general questions. And so I'll tell you a little bit about how we hope to do that this afternoon. Really, today, again, is a second of 2 drop-in information sessions. The first one was on October 26th. And today's November 5th session, we've invited our partners and stakeholders to learn more about our plans for Best Starts for Kids 2.0 and how it relates to the work that we're doing within communities of opportunity. With the renewal, we really want to be able to share our proposed plans for COO and specifically highlight plans for our funding in 2022 and in 2023, as many of you have noted, and note some of the anticipated at a high level timelines for contracting and for our requests for proposal or funding processes moving forward. We also want to be able to introduce some other opportunities for engagement with communities of opportunity. And equally importantly, we want to hear from you all and hear where you're at with as we are gearing up for some of the implementation that we're going to be embarking on over the next few months and the next few years. And I did, again, want to acknowledge we received some questions from you previously. We've tried to weave the answers and questions into the information that I'll provide for you. Again, encourage you to use the chat if we're not addressing your questions, or if you want to bring those up for us so that we can have those for our discussion. Great. So Best Starts for Kids is a levy-funded regional initiative that's aimed at supporting healthy development of children, youth, and families, and then sustaining those gains across communities across King County. And this is done through promotion, prevention, and early intervention programs. Best Starts for Kids, in Best Starts for Kids, we share a vision really that's centered around happy, healthy, safe, and thriving, where we want to see babies that are born healthy, kids thrive, and young people grow up in happy, healthy, to be happy, healthy, successful adults. And Best Starts and COO are promoting improved health and well-being outcomes for children and youth, as well as the families and the communities in which they live. So COO is really a critical part of Best Starts for Kids' vision in supporting communities to create the equitable conditions so that all children and families can thrive. The renewal of Best Starts for Kids does a couple of things. It expands the funding that we have available to meet new and newly visible needs with that we've seen through COVID-19, and to be able to provide increased and expanded resources for overdue racial justice, racial equity, and specifically the Best Starts for Kids levy renewal will be expanded to include new child care subsidies, a program for more than 3,000 low-income children under child care. It's being expanded to include a new workforce demonstration project for low-wage childcare workers. It's expanding our out-of-school time programs for school-age children with up to 4 new school-based health centers. And we're expanding the transitions to adulthood programs for youth and young adults. In addition, Council has added funding for capital projects under the new levy of up to $50 million. These expanded programs are in addition to the core programs that we'd seen develop over the first levy, which include our investing early programs, and that's investments for prenatal to 5-year-olds. It's sustaining the gain, so we're seeing a maintenance of programs for children, youth, and young adults ages 5 through 24. Our Youth and Family Homelessness Prevention Initiative, and the programs that you're all most familiar with through Communities of Opportunity. So Communities of Opportunity represents 8% of the core funding to the Best Starts for Kids renewal, and that's really about level funding for what we received in the first levy. So we continue with Communities of Opportunity, 8% of the core part of Best Starts renewal at about the same level that we saw in the first 6 years of the levy. So over the last several months, we've been developing plans for the consideration by Council of what we want to do with Best Starts for Kids renewal funding. Some of the plans and proposals that we've submitted to Council include the next Best Starts for Kids implementation plan. And the implementation plan sets out all of the policy and programs at a high level for how they will be put into place or implemented over the next 6 years. The county executive transmitted the plan to Council last July, and we're really excited to say that the Council has just adopted the proposed plan. It was reviewed by the Regional Policy Council, the Regional Policy Committee, the RPC, and the Committee of the Whole over the last couple of months. So I'm sorry, the Best Starts for Kids implementation plan was reviewed by both the Regional Policy Committee and the Committee of the Whole. They made recommendations and a few amendments to the proposed plan, and the Council just adopted that this week. So what we're able to tell you about our plans are part of the proposed and adopted plan, implementation plan. The other plans that we've forwarded to the Council include budget plans for the rest of this biennium, which includes the calendar year 2022. So Best Starts for Kids renewal was passed by voters right in the middle of a biennium, and we need to submit a budget proposal, which is being reviewed by the Council and should be determined, adopted by the end of November. So some of the information we're going to be able to provide to you about specific dollar amounts is really general, because we have to wait until the budget is approved at the end of this month. And then finally, we have submitted a governance report, which updates the existing authorization for different Best Starts for Kids advisory boards, including our Best Starts for Kids Communities of Opportunity Advisory Committee, which is also known as our governance group. So I want to shift gears and focus a little bit more on communities of opportunity within the context of Best Starts. And most of the folks on this call, I think, are familiar with our work, and Communities of Opportunity works with local communities and identifies their priorities. And the priorities are really existing at the intersection of health, housing, economic resiliency, and community connections. And we believe by focusing on these intersections, we're going to be able to bring positive changes to the places throughout King County that have really struggled for too long. Our work is led by and for communities to shift policies, change systems, and build relationships toward a just and equitable future. Our investments are made through three different strategies that we believe are going to lead to greater racial, economic, social, and health equity for people in King County. And on this slide, you're seeing our three strategy areas. We recognize that our work needs to be addressing structural institutional racism, promoting policies and practices that have perpetuated inequities and resulted in conditions that around disparate health and well-being conditions. Our strategies briefly are about making investments through partnerships that are within place-based and cultural communities, through systems and policy change, and through dynamic activities that help make up our learning community. As you can see here, our place-based equity work is really centered in through six different partnerships and three cultural community partnerships. Our six place-based partnerships include the Rainier Valley, White Center, SeaTac in Tukwila, Kent, Seattle Central area, and the Snoqualmie Valley. And then our three cultural community partnerships are working with the Seattle Urban Native nonprofits, the Transgender Economic Empowerment Coalition, and Comunidad Latina de Vachon. Systems and policy change has focused on impacting root causes of inequities that cut across our county. And we've made awards to more than 100 different organizations, both working individually and in coalition, on a wide variety of issues and topics, including housing protections, consumer rights, criminal justice reform, educational supports for students of color, and inclusion of culturally relevant and healthy menu items in schools, healthy eating, and options for schools. And then finally, the learning community, that is, as I mentioned, is really about sharing and learning from each other. We've come together to problem solve, to leverage our assets in the community, and then to look to where we can design and scale community solutions for greater equity. Our learning community focuses on opportunities for shared learning, critical connections, capacity building, and equity transformations, really seeking ways in which we can create new tools and models to actualize the thriving communities that we envision. So that is a quick run through of some of the ways in which Communities of Opportunity has been doing our work over the last 5 to 6 years. And really it's been a development and evolution and startup in different ways across the last 6 years with the help of many of the people in this room today. So I want to shift gears into what we think we're going to be looking at for the future implementation for COO. And really stress that we've been looking at creating continuity from the work that we've been doing over the last 6 years into what we hope to do in the next 6 years. So continuity is a theme and a principle for Best Starts across the board, not just within COO, but across all of our Best Starts for Kids programs and projects. Within planning, or as we were planning for the next iteration of our work, we really were focused on not making large-scale changes, but looking at where we can modify what we had already been doing. And so we intend to continue with the 3 program strategy areas with some modifications. And our modifications I'll walk through. We are ensuring that we're taking the lessons from the challenges, the accomplishments from the last set of investments and practices into the next 6 years. We want to make sure that we are including an emphasis and increasing our emphasis on systems and policy change, and making sure that we're integrating the work across our different program strategies. And then finally, we really are focused on creating a priority for specific communities. So COO is equity-based. We are not necessarily focusing funding across all communities in King County, but we're focused on specific communities within King County with the goal of changing conditions for all people in King County. The other principle that we're taking into the implementation for the next 6 years is we are very fortunate to have King County Best Starts for Kids resources along with private philanthropic resources through the Seattle Foundation. And we have tried where possible to maximize the use of our private philanthropic funding in order to support the kinds of systems and policy change that our Best Starts public dollars are not able to support. So we are limited in our use of public dollars, and we take advantage and maximize the use of our private Seattle Foundation dollars to forward our systems and change practices and policies. So across our 3 strategy areas, we intend to apply a distribution of resources across our 3 areas in the following way. We will make available 10 to 15% of Best Starts for Kids funding to our learning community strategy area. Systems and policy change, with an increased focus to systems and policy change, we'll see a 40 to 45% of Best Starts for Kids COO funding in that strategy area. And finally, our community partnerships will receive a 45 to 50% allocation of Best Starts for Kids COO resources to this strategy area. These are outlined in the implementation plan. And so again, this is what we expect to apply across the next 6 years. I mentioned that we intend to work with specific communities, and this is one way we intend to work with specific populations or communities. Through public health, Seattle and King County, Communities of Opportunity has established what we call a composite index, which takes into account a number of different health and well-being indicators. And then we apply those across a map, or we use those to map this data across census tracts. And when we do that, we see where there are the greatest disparities in the county around health and well-being. And in the next 6 years, we intend to focus on communities which we consider the highest 20th percentile priority areas. And these are communities where they are at the lowest in these different health and well-being indicators. So this is our highest priority for resources, and they are mapped here according to geography, and they show up as the dark blue. Another way that we'll apply our criteria will be looking at demographic communities, racial communities, and use the same kinds of health and well-being indicators to be able to make resources available to cultural communities that have the greatest health and well-being disparities in the county. So now we want to get into more specifically what this means for us in the next few years. I mentioned continuity from the initial levy to the renewed levy. And what this means is that COO will continue funding for eligible contractors and grantees in 2022. If you receive funding from King County, the terminology we use is contractors, and if you receive funding from Seattle Foundation under Communities of Opportunity, we usually use terminology related to grantees. So just so you know that they're usually one and the same. It's folks who are receiving funding from Communities of Opportunity. So again, we plan to continue funding for eligible COO contractors and grantees in 2022. The funding will be only available to partnerships or organizations for specific contracts and grants. And the specific contracts and grants that will be extended in 2022 include the list of cohort groups that you see on the slide. So that includes our original place-based partnerships who received funding through an RFP in 2015. It includes place-based and culturally based partnerships. Those partnerships receive funding through a 2018 RFP. Systems and policy change grantees, multi-year commitments that were made in a 2019 RFP. And then systems and policy change led by Black-led organizations that was awarded through a 2020 RFP. These are the 4 groups of grants and contract holders that will be eligible to receive funding in 2022. Continuity funding in 2022. We're going to apply criteria to determine eligibility for the funding, and generally it's going to be based on partnerships, contractors, grantees that are currently in good standing, meeting their deliverables, who have been timely in their reporting, and other contract or grant agreement requirements. I want to point out that the funding in 2022 will be through a cycle that ends December 2022. So if you receive continuity funding, it will end, transition funding will end in 2022 December. I'm going to shift to future funding. Future funding opportunities through Communities of Opportunity will be available starting with RFP processes that we expect to release in mid-2022. So we will have an open request for proposal or RFP process or processes for Communities of Opportunity starting in mid-2022. Funding awards for future RFPs for projects would begin if you're awarded funding through an RFP in 2022, that those contracts and grants would begin January 1, 2023. We intend to make awards for multi-year funding based on all the feedback that we've received and from our experience over the last 5 years, knowing that multi-year funding helps to create more momentum for our projects, your projects. We want to stress that all of the current contractors and grantees will be able to apply for funding, but there won't be any guarantee, and we can't make any promises that current partners will receive funding beyond 2022 in the next round of RFPs. That's funding. The other requirements that are new that you'll see in 2022 and the next round of levy into 2023 through 2027 are requirements for data collection and reporting that have been added by our King County Council. The council's been interested in seeing data collected and reported by zip code, and so we are going to apply those requirements to all of our funding, our grants and contracts. It includes reporting levy spending by program area by zip code, number of individuals receiving funding by zip code, and requirements around collection of information by all of our contractors and grantees. We understand that the nature of COO funding is different than direct service provision and contracts, And so that the application of collecting information by zip code is going to look different for some of our COO programs than it may for some of our other Best Starts for Kids funded programs. So we intend to be working with our partners to help us best define the ways in which we can gather these informations and meet the new council requirement on data collection. So I continue to kind of tear down and try to give you more specific information with what we have available. So what will this mean for our COO partners immediately? So for those contractors and grantees that are eligible for contract extensions or grant extensions, I'll say that we are going to see while we have the same amount of funding from Levy 1.0 to Levy 2.0, it's going to feel like less money in the first year of the levy. We have an estimated $6 million available for contracts and grants in 2022. When we compare that amount to what we were awarding and expending in 2021, there is an effective reduction by 30% across the board. So our annual contracting and grant funding is reduced by effectively 30%. And I'll go into the reasons why that's occurring for COO. I want to stress that the impacts are going to be distributed differently across our program areas. And the reductions in annual funding will vary by contract holders, ranging from anywhere from 5% to upwards of 45%. So there are a couple of things contributing to why it's going to be there, why there will be a reduction from 2021 to 2022, despite the fact that we have the same amount of funding over the next 6 years. One of the reasons for this is Best Starts for Kids 1.0, Communities of Opportunity started our implementation of the levy, which was a 6-year levy, in 2017. So we had 5 years to distribute the amount of resources, compared to when we move into the next levy, we'll have 6 years to implement and make resources available. So same pie, more years across 5 years, moving into 6 years. The other influencing factor is that COO was ramping up its implementation. And so we had expenditures that really were pushed out into later years. So you can see in this blue line what our expenditures were looking like over the last 6 years compared to how we intend to make awards and see expenditures go out over the next 6 years. So there's basically a leveling off or maintenance of the momentum that we've created from the first 6 years. So what's next? We're in the info sessions. We intend to have more information, specific information about funding available this month. And as soon as we have that information, we will be communicating that directly with each program and through each strategy area, and then with each program. So you will know specifically for your program what you may be able to expect. We will have opportunities for drop-in sessions, for questions and answers, for technical assistance as we move toward getting contract agreements in place that will start January 2021, January 1, 2022. I'm sorry. As we start the new year, January 22, we will be working with you over the next few months to make sure that there's a continuity with existing contracts if you're eligible to receive funding in 2022. So I want to see if we can answer questions that you may have, and maybe go off slides and we can see each other. So questions, clarification, thoughts?
Just ask a quick clarifying question. Thank you for that great presentation and discussion. And as far as continuity funding, should we expect a similar or same amount as we've gotten in 2021 for that funding?
Thanks, Mike. I'm glad you asked that question because I think we need to give you a little bit more context for that. So again, for if you're, maybe we can show the slide again, Whitney, that has the list of folks who are eligible for continuance of funding. And while you're doing that, so I think we have folks on the call who are representing both our systems and policy change, maybe partners, as well as our place-based and cultural community partnerships. And so it's going to be applied differently. Systems and policy change, we're anticipating that the reductions that they will see will be minimal if they're falling into one of these two categories of policy change, systems change partners that receive funding in 2019 through that RFP, or the 2020 Black-led systems and policy change in 2020. We expect minimal reductions, maybe 5% as a whole, and it may vary from project to project, but in general, there will be roughly the same amount of funding available in 2022. For our original place-based partnerships and our place-based and cultural community partnerships, if you're falling into one of those categories of partners, funded partners, contractors, then we're anticipating that these partnerships could experience a 30 to 45% decrease from current levels of 2021 annualized funding. Did that generally answer your question, Mike? I hope that was clear.
Yeah, I mean, I wondered about it because you did mention the 30% overall reduction based on the years. And I guess the other question related to that is, as you move towards an RFP, is there a thought about continuing with the same number of place-based partners and the same format in terms of having one anchor organization work with other organizations, or is that yet to be developed, how that will look?
Thanks. We intend to have an engagement process where we're going to look at how the next RFP would work. So in the past, we've had work groups that have looked at the ways in which we want to continue lessons from the past into the future, or what the intent is for funding. So it's not, we don't have a specific answer yet for what it would look like, the number of partnerships, and the ways in which it would roll out. However, again, I do want to stress that we have engaged partners currently in thinking around what's worked well. We hope to, again, take lessons, challenges, accomplishments into account in the design and development, and work collaboratively with community in designing the next RFP, developing the next RFP.
Thank you.
Sure.
This might not, hi, this is Sarah Valenta with OneSite. This might not be the correct forum for this question, but we do have a plan for our funding that ends this month. But because of some changes to COVID guidelines and things that have happened this summer, we weren't able to get everything done we wanted to get done in this time frame. And maybe this is something we should be talking to our individual contact person about. But do you guys have a plan for extending funding past November that that we already have been awarded?
I
To
go ahead, Blishta.
So yes, we have a plan. So unfortunately, BSK is not allowing us to do carry forward of funds. So we are not able to do that. However, what we can do is what we call a no cost extension. So what that means is that if you currently have the funds available, we can extend your contract out to however long you think it will take for you to finalize the current scope of work. And thus the funds that you have available, you can use to finish the work.
Okay, yes, we do have a plan. Yes, okay, great. I will contact you after this.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
Definitely.
Thanks, Sarah. I think that, yeah, for others who may be in a similar place, we do encourage you to contact your program manager directly, and then you can have a conversation that will be tailored to the specifics of your project program. Thanks for that question, Sarah. So as folks may be thinking of other questions, I do really want to appreciate that all of you have been in a holding pattern for a period of time as we've been waiting to get more information on the decisions that council is making on the implementation plan, on the budget. We wanted to give you general information and know that most folks are really desiring more specific information. And so we do acknowledge and appreciate that that's not the best place to be in as you're making your plans. And so if you have, again, specific questions, our program managers can help you help discuss kind of what you may be thinking about for your partnership or your program in the immediate future, for the immediate future. Other questions that are coming to mind? Comments? Things that you may need to hear from us as we're communicating across? COO?
Do you have any information on the new workforce demonstration project for low-wage childcare workers? I'm just curious about that.
I do not, but I do know that we have someone who is a new program manager that was hired to work on the childcare components, and we can make sure we get that information out to folks here.
Yeah, and I mean, just to follow up, we would be very interested at the YWCA. We do actually employ childcare workers. We have quite a few, and they are paid a fairly low wage at our agency. We just raised the wage, but they're usually on-call workers, so they're not getting a lot of hours through us. So we're just interested in that project, interested also in what's in President Biden's plan for low-wage childcare workers, and kind of combined with all of these initiatives, we're really advocating for higher wage and more expanded career pathways for those workers. So we would love to work on or just be involved in any aspect of that.
We'll pass that along. Thank you, Mike. I'm on mute. I don't want to keep you longer. If we'd answered questions that you have today, we'll gladly give you back a few minutes of your Friday afternoon. And if you have other questions, please reach out to your program managers. You can contact me directly as well, and we appreciate working with you. We appreciate the work that you are doing in our communities, and look forward to continuing our work together. Thank you for being here this afternoon.
Thank you.